Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome along to this afternoon's session. We're looking at LockDate and how you can use it to prevent backdated transactions. Nice, simple feature, this one. Should be quite a short webinar as well, so I'm expecting probably around about the 20 minutes mark for this one today. We will be running a session on discounts that are available in invoicing. That will be at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And I'll tell you more about how you can register for that one if you haven't already, if you want to come along to it. So we'll cover that one a little bit later on. Today, though, we're looking at, in this session, we're looking at LockDate. Now, a little bit of housekeeping just before we get started, as usual. If you've got a microphone, which you don't need for these sessions, but if you've got one and you've enabled it, it will be muted automatically. So you find you can't unmute yourself during the session. Now, that means you can't verbally ask me any questions, but you will be able to type them into the questions panel. So you just need to pop them into that panel in the bottom right-hand corner, click send, and either myself or my colleague Jackie, who's joining us today to help answer any questions, will provide an answer for you. If you can't currently see the questions panel, just on your toolbar, click the little icon, the one that looks like the speech bubble containing the question mark, and you should then see that, so you can show or hide that throughout. There's a copy of today's slides available for you to download as well. A lot of people have asked for that in the past, so we do make those available. And there is an option on your toolbar to switch to full screen mode as well. So when I'm sharing my screen during the session today, you may find things just a little bit clearer if you do switch to full screen mode. But your questions panel will be available to you throughout. You can, as I say, you can sure hide that. If you want to sit back and relax and just watch, fine. If you want to get involved and engage with us, get typing. Right, okay, let's see what we're covering in this session now. So a little bit of background as to what it actually does. We'll then run through a quick demonstration. As I say, it's going to be quite a short session, this one. So how you can go about setting up a LockDate. And we're going to look at the two scenarios of when you come to enter a transaction, and hopefully it'll give you a good understanding of how the LockDate option works. It's all to do, or a lot of it is all to do with the user's permissions, whether they get an error or a warning if they're trying to backdate a transaction. I'm going to cover both scenarios. We'll then look at reports that you maybe have available to you, including the transactions list, and also, I suppose, keeping in the theme of entering transactions, if you try to import transactions, if they've got dates prior to the lock date that you specify. So I'm going to show you an example of that one and get as well. As usual, we just mention a little bit about the additional support that's available, maybe upcoming webinars, things like that towards the end of the session. We will then hang around for questions and try and pick up as many as we can. It's just myself and Jackie with you today, so apologies if we don't get a chance to answer your questions, but we'll try our best. Hopefully it's nice and easy though, and easy to get your head around. If you have downloaded the handouts as well, the links that you'll see dotted around on the slides, so there's one on the slide at the moment for the Help Center link to the LockDate article, then they will actually work for you. Obviously, the information within the Help Center, nice and easy to find anyway. Anyway, we'll get started. So a little bit of background first of all. So what does LockDate actually do? Well, basically it's used to help you to control who can and can't post transactions prior to a date that you would actually specify. Now, it doesn't necessarily stop you, but that's something we're going to come on to. So that's where you get an error or a warning. So you can control that, who is able to override the message and who can't. So puts you in control of that. Obviously, for the idea of using this, and it's something that's, it's a feature that was introduced way back in 2012. So this feature's been around for about 10 years now. Nice, simple feature as well, but very effective. And it helps you to prevent postings maybe to previous financial year. Obviously, if you run year end, you don't want then people posting transactions into it or deleting transactions or amending dates of transactions that would impact on those figures that are being cleared down. Or maybe you're partway through a financial year, you've run a month end, you've generated your management reports, and again, you don't want anyone making changes to transactions that would then impact on that, whether it's backdating a transaction or again editing or deleting a transaction. So it again helps you to control that. Now, as we'll see in the demo today, you will either get an error or a warning. So the error, basically where you can't backdate the transaction, just gives you the error, you get an OK message, and that's it. You can't backdate. Or you will get a warning saying, just almost like reminding you that we've got a lock date set. Do you wish to proceed and post beyond that? So we're going to show you the two options. Now, this is all linked to how you go about managing your users, and understanding how this works is the key to this option. So this is where you can control who will get the error and who will get the warning. Now, setting a lock date can be done in 3 areas within your software. You'll get the option if you go to the settings menu, you have a lock date option. If you run a month end in your software, so period end, month end, again, you will get an option to switch on the lock date and specify a date. And also, if you're running the year end option, again, you will get the tick box to switch it on or off, and also specify the date. Now, it does mean that because you can go into settings and lock date, that you can amend the lock date and switch the option on and off at any time if required. So if you wanted to give it a go, and you might think, well, actually, I don't get along with that feature, or I do like it, you can then choose whether you want to leave it on or switch it off. It does mean as well that you can amend that date at any time as well. So it's not just at year end. Quite common what people will, as I say, after running a month end and generating your management reports, that type of thing, people will then set that lock date so you can't post prior to a certain date. So we'll run through a bit of a demonstration just so you can see what this looks like. Again, really simple feature, this one. So we'll run through these options and show you how it works within the software. Again, if you're not sure about something though, do let us know. Just pop your comments or your questions into the questions panel. And obviously myself or Jackie will try to pick that up for you. Right, let me share my screen. We'll quickly get stuck in. So as I say, you've got the 3 options, first of all, where you can specify and switch on the lock date. So if I was going into tools, period end, and then month end, you'll see we have an option, where is it? This one. So this option here, your month end option may look a little bit different. It will be dependent on the level of software that you're using, but it's this option here, prevent new transactions before this date. So you can switch it on, specify a date. You'll get a similar option when you're running through the year end. So this option here, this option here, I should say, it's exactly the same messaging. So again, you've got the tick box and the ability to then enter a date if you do switch it on. Or you can go into settings, assuming you've got access to this option, which if you're logged in as manager, you will have access to everything. So settings and then lock date, and we can switch it on in here as well, and also specify the date. Now it's quite common that if you do switch this option on, in this case, it's picked up the first day of my current financial year, so the 1st of January 2022. But you could specify that, as I say, I mentioned it earlier, you could specify that as a date partway through your financial year. So let's say I'd run the September month end already, for instance. And I think, right, generated my profit and loss, a balance sheet, trial balance, maybe generated other reports. I don't want anyone amending figures that would impact on those reports. So, I could switch that on and pop the date in, 1st of October 2022. And then again, the warning or the error message would start popping up if people try and amending or backdating transactions prior to that date. So I'm just going to leave it set to that for the time being, the 1st of January 2022. So I'll OK that. Now I'm logged in as manager, or I'm logged in as a user. And this is again where you need to understand the user managing aspect, if you can get your head around that bit. So any user that has access to settings and then lock date will get this scenario if they try to backdate a transaction. So if I go into bank accounts, just as an example, choose payments, we'll just choose a bank payment as an example. I'll enter some basic details. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that into the previous financial year. So any date prior to the first day of my current financial year in my case. So I'll just choose the 30th of December 2021. Now, I do get a message because I've tried to backdate a transaction to a previous financial year. That isn't relating to the lock date, that option, that message. So I just OK that for the time being. Pop in a reference, doesn't really matter about the nominal code, or I'll just put test in the details, and I'll put a value in. And when I go to save that transaction, I get a warning. So it's telling me the transaction date is set before the current lock date, which tells me what it is, 1st of the 1st, 2022. Do you wish to proceed and post to a lock date? So basically, because I've got access as a user to settings and then lock date, it gives me this warning if I try to post prior to the lock date. So I get that option, do you want to or not? So it's giving me that warning, and it would let me if I want to. So I can click yes as a normal message because I'm posting to a previous financial year as well, but it gives me that warning. Now that's the key. It's all to do with the user's level. However, if we go into settings and then user management, users, and I've got a user here set up. So I've got Mac set up as a user. Mac currently has full access. So just to show you what that would look like. So Mac has full access, so access to everything in the software. So if I just quickly log off and log in as Mac. And again, if I go into bank accounts and then do a payment again. Again, we'll just change the date back. Get that standard message, date is outside the current financial year. Again, that's nothing to do with the lock date, that option. We'll pop a nominal code in. And we'll do £50 this time. And then again, I'll save it. And again, at this stage, I get the warning. So get that warning, trying to post prior to the lock date, yes or no. So let's just say yes to that one as well. So at this stage, I've been given that prompt, that warning. Do you want to post it, yes or no? And I've chosen yes in both instances. But what I'm going to quickly do, I'll just quickly log back in as manager. I'm going to amend the access levels, or what you would maybe previously term, depending on your version, the access rights of this user, Mac, who has full access at the moment. I'm going to edit them. And the only thing I'm going to change on their level of access is within the settings menu. And I'm going to remove access to the lock date settings. This is the key. So I'll just finish, save it. So that's the only thing that the user Mac doesn't have access to at this stage. The going into settings, lock date settings. So I'll go file, log off, log back in as Mac. Go to settings, you'll see that the option for lock date settings is no longer listed. So if I now go into bank accounts, and again choose payments, bank payments, we'll backdate it prior to a date prior to the lock date again. Still the same prompt, date outside financial year, just ignore that. Put £75 in this time. And this time when I try to save it, I no longer get the warning saying you're trying to post prior to the lock date. We get an error this time. So the error just says your transaction date that we've entered is set before the current lock date. Tell me what the lock date is. If the date is correct, please refer to your system administrator or accountant for advice on how to post to a lock date. So all I get this time is I don't get the choice, do you wish to post it, do you not? I just get the OK message. So I cannot backdate a transaction prior to that lock date if I do not have access to settings and lock date. And that's the key to it. Good question for Margaret there. Margaret's just asking there, is the same lock date value that applies to all users? Yes. So it's one lock date for the company as a whole. So you will always get the same message. Paige, your question there. Paige is just asking, I'll just quickly pick this one up. If the last date of your period is, say, the end of October, however, you won't finish posting till around partway through the next month, what would you enter as the lock date? Well, it depends. If anything, do you want people still to be posting in that period or not while you're finishing off that month? Or do you want to control who can and can't post into that period? So I suppose it's really down to you to decide that. At what point do you set that date in your example to, say, the 1st of November, so that people can't then, depending on their access rights, who can't then backdate transactions prior to it. So you would need to decide that one, Paige. Depends what you need to what you need to post, or who does and doesn't need to post transactions, or is it just for everyone? Rebecca, you're thinking the other way. So Rebecca is just asking there, can you lock date future transactions? You can't. So any date beyond the lock date or beyond that into the future, to infinity and beyond, as someone on Toy Story says, you can enter any date you want in the future. It will give you a warning if you post beyond the end of your financial year, but it won't stop you. So if that's a thing that you think you would find it beneficial, you would like to see that introduced, I would encourage you, get that submitted as a request for change. Denise, or Dennis, I'm not sure, asking there, are there different lock dates for month end and year end? No, it's the same option. It's the same tick box, it's the same date. Obviously, it just gives you that option to switch the option on or off via the tick box, and gives you the option to amend the date as well. Right, okay. So hope that makes sense. What we'll do, I'll quickly log back in as manager. Yeah, file and log off, that would help. And I just want to quickly explain a few other things relating to lock date as well. So if, for instance, I went into invoices, we did a new invoice, and what I'll quickly do is I'll set that date back again. And then I'll just quickly enter a transaction. Right, now if I highlight that invoice that I've just entered, bear in mind the lock date is still set. So if I highlight this one and go to update ledgers, again, we get that warning, and that's because I'm logged in as manager. I've got access to the lock date option on the settings menu. If it was a user that didn't, I wouldn't get that warning. I would get the error with just the OK button. So again, you would be in a similar position. So it's pretty much throughout the software. If you try to backdate anything prior to that lock date, you're either going to get that warning or the error, depending on your level of access. So again, if it's the warning, you still get the option to override that. Right, okay, let's pick on some other options as well. So I'm going to pop into transactions. And I want to bring to your attention this option. So if you scroll right across to the right-hand side, What we can do is we can right click on any column heading. It will give me a list of all the columns. So all of the columns that I can show or hide. So there's maybe certain columns that you don't use. Then you can switch them off, maybe just declutter the screen a little bit. But it's this option here, late entry date. It's not switched on by default. Now, if I switch that on, what you would find is in the late entry date is any transaction where you have entered it and it has been dated prior to the lock date and you got the warning and you chose, yes, I still want to post that transaction, it will record whatever the lock date was set to when that transaction was entered. I hope that one makes sense, but you do need to switch that column on to see that. Obviously, you can report on that as well if needed. So it's just right click any column heading and it's late entry date that you would want to switch on. Again, it means you can see, has anything been has anyone overridden the lock date at the time when they're being posting transactions? Chris, you're mentioning there, can you exempt any nominals or transactions for that matter from the lock date option? No. It just basically it's applying it across the board. Now, what we'll quickly do, let's try and find an old transaction just to demonstrate this as well. So if I scroll right up, so again, we got a transaction prior to the current financial year. If I just select it and go to edit it, bad example. See if I've got one that I can use. See if this one will work. So if I edit that transaction, so standard sort of message warning about you're amending a transaction that was posted in a previous financial year. So if I go in and maybe I want to try and amend the date, save it. So again, I get to the point where I'm either going to get that warning or the error, again, depending on my access level. Final one to quickly demonstrate for you in the session today is importing transactions. So just in case you thought that might be a backdoor to get around this one. So if I go to File and then Import, and I'm just going to import an audit trail transaction file. Just browse to it. I've got it saved to my desktop. So all the mapping is done for me. And it has, as you see, it has imported the transaction in that instance. So there's the transaction in this instance. It's allowed me to import that. Let me just quickly check that one again. I'll just make sure. Just see, I'm not sure it's off the top of my head. I'm not sure if it's any different if I log in as a user that doesn't. That would have access or does not have access to log date. So let me just double check that one. We'll import the same file and just see if it's any different. So just browse for it. It's that one there. All the mapping's done for me. And this time, as you'll see, I get that one at the bottom there, date is locked. So that's the error. So basically, if you come to import, if you do have access to settings lock date, it will let you, essentially it's going to automatically, rather than give you the warning potentially for each and every transaction, are you sure, yes or no, it's going to essentially post those transactions in. If you don't have access to settings lock date, then it's going to give you an error when you're trying to import. It'll just stop that import at that point. So again, the difference between the two. Hope that makes sense. Again, keep your questions coming. I think Jackie's trying to answer as many as she can there. Some of them are quite lengthy as well, so may just need to wait for an answer where we possibly test some of those scenarios as well. Again, you can test that as well. Remember, you've got the practice data and the demo, the demonstration company as well that you can use these options in to see how things work. You can almost like try before you buy type scenario. Right, okay, so that's just about concludes the demonstrations. So again, just popping back to the slides. So considerations, entering transactions. So when are you going to get that warning? When are you going to get the error? Again, I can't stress that one enough. It's all to do with the user's level of access. Do they have access to settings, lock date? Invoices and credits. We've gone through that one as well. Sales orders. Now you can enter a sales order. You could put that in prior to the lock date. You could dispatch it, generate the invoice. But the invoice we've seen, you'll only be able to update that one to the ledgers, again, depending on your level of access. Import, we've just run through that one, so you've seen what that looked like. Again, if you're a user that doesn't have access to lock date, then you're going to get that error, data is locked. And corrections, again, you're in a similar position. Tracking, so in the transactions, if you need to see which transactions have been entered and where that message has been overridden to say, yes, I do want to post those transactions, it's within the transactions list, enable the column late entry date. And also within the transaction screen, if you are wanting to run a report on that, just reports transactions, you have a late entry reports report that you can run, and it will pick up any transactions that have a late entry date recorded against them. So the only transactions that will have that late entry date recorded are the ones where you got the warning, do you wish to post it, yes or no, and you've clicked yes. So that will enter the transaction and record the lock date against that transaction. Normal transactions that weren't entered prior to that lock date will not have that date recorded against them. Right, now, as I say, there are some quite detailed queries coming through. So if you've got any queries like that and you want to test it yourself, again, get yourself into the file menu, click open, you can go into the demo data, the practice data, and you can play around with that. You can enter transactions and test some quite complex scenarios that you're entering questions against as well. So you can test that. So have a try of it and see how it works. Simple option. Again, you can always go into the settings menu, lock date, and switch that option off if you don't like it, or just keep amending the date. Now, I just want to quickly mention a little bit about Sage membership. Sage membership is something that you're probably starting to hear about now, or here and there. You may have received the odd email, or you may see messages about it when you're coming into the software itself. Sage membership, if you've not come across that before, it brings three key areas together. So Sage University, Sage City, and also the masterclasses. Now, you'll have heard a little bit about masterclasses here and there if you've been attending our webinars over the last certainly the last month or so. So masterclass is all about videos and presentations from business experts on different topics. So they're nothing to do with your Sage software themselves. They're just, I suppose, giving you more business advice. So season one, those videos are available to watch. It's all about finding and keeping great people within your business. Season two, which was available from, I think, from Thursday last week, it's all about productivity. So that's the theme of those masterclass sessions. If you want to access them, if you have downloaded the slides, that link at the bottom of that slide should work for you. Otherwise, it's sage.com/UK/masterclass. To give you an idea of some of the upcoming webinars, tomorrow Jackie will be running through budgets with you all. If you want to sign up for that one, please do so. Again, expecting that to be a busy session. We'll also, other sessions we've got coming up as well, clearing records, charities part 2, looking at gift aid, VAT return, running reports to reconcile your VAT return, filters and quick search. We're going to start bringing some report designer themed webinars into the mix as well. And to celebrate International Accounting Day, which I'm sure everybody's heard of. Can't remember the date of that one now. We will be running a quiz. So if you want to test your knowledge of CH50, so a little bit more on the fun side of CH50 accounts, so if you want to test your knowledge of that, then please come along, get yourself signed up for that one as well. Any requests that you have for topics you'd like to see covered, let us know. There'll be a little survey pop up as you leave the session today. And you can pop your thoughts, your ideas, any requests that you have on there. Nicola, the clearing records, just watch out for your follow-up email. And it will include the links that you need to get yourself registered for the sessions. And that goes for all of the other sessions as well. It's just the imminent one, budgets, which is tomorrow, that I've put the date and time on. But the others, watch out for your follow-up email. You get that round about an hour's time, and it will include the links that you need. Now that brings us to the end of the session. So I did mention short and sharp that one. Thanks for coming along. It does bring us to the end of the demo. So if you've got any questions, we're just going to hang around for a few minutes just to see if any additional ones do come through. But otherwise, watch out for your follow-up email. You get that run about an hour's time, and there will be that little survey pop up as you leave the session today. So if you've got any thoughts, how we can improve the webinars, topics you'd like to see covered, what you like, didn't like, anything and everything, if you want to share that with us, if you can take a minute to complete the little survey that pops up, that'll be greatly appreciated. But if you've got any questions, please pop them in there now. I think we've managed to just about cover the majority of them today. As I mentioned, I would encourage you, if you've got any specific scenarios that you're wondering about, or maybe you think about afterwards, well, what about this scenario? What about that? Do what I've done, but use the demonstration company and the practice company. If you've not used those before, let me just point you in the right direction. Just within your software, you just go to File and then Open, and you'll have Open Demo Data, Open Practice Data. Again, you'll be able to set users up. Default log on, if it does prompt you for that when you try and access it, it would be Manager. That goes for both. So demo data, there's already some information entered. You can use that. Practice data, it would be a blank company. That's the difference between the two. So if you're wanting to maybe follow a process through start to finish, or see what impact a certain transaction has without maybe some of the background records and transactions getting in the way, and maybe sort of not letting you see the full effect of certain transactions, then go down the practice data route where there's nothing previously entered. If you get any requests, please don't pop them into the questions panel, pop them on the survey. As I say, that would be greatly appreciated then. Right, okay, I think we'll end the webinar just at that point. So once again, many thanks for coming along. Take care, stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you on some of the other sessions soon as well. Many thanks.